Today, I want to talk about death because last week, yet another of my past musical collaborators, production partners, passed away. And I'm here beside this monstrous tree. It's so big. To feel its energy and to share that energy with you. While I talk about something really incredible that was brought to me as a result of my friend's death. In the wake of that knowledge, pieces came together about something that I wanted to make a video about last week, but I wasn't so sure if I would. And that was with regard to Massimo, to his death, and something that was revealed to me. I am not so sure that it was a suicide. In fact, I really believe it was not. Something was revealed to me in a way that I'm not going to talk about here in this video. If you're interested in learning more, I will make another video about this on my other channel for those who are interested in such things. But let's get to the important part for this video. There is a real danger associated with, let's call it enlightenment, with the pursuit of it. It's not something that should be pursued. And there's a danger in that was well known thousands of years ago. This is why in ancient times, practices such as Zen were not taught to anybody who wanted it. It was only made available to those who were ready, who were, let's just say, for lack of a better word, mature enough to be able to handle such knowledge. I'm trying to get my position just right against this tree to maximize the energy exchange. Now, things have changed in our society worldwide so that all information is available to anyone at any time. And so what has happened now is the distortion of the very principles associated with what we refer to as enlightenment, which in the current context is not enlightenment at all. But we won't get into that here. I used to have many different series of videos on this channel about Zen, and I've eliminated them all because I realized as I was making the very last one, and I shared it in that video, that we had reached a point where if I went any further, it would be too dangerous to be seen by people who weren't ready. to learn such things, and I would not contribute to such disastrous outcomes. And so I won't go into that territory now, but I will say this, and this is so important for everyone to hear who's interested in such things. It has come to my attention that Massimo did not kill himself. Well, he did, but it was an accident. He was experimenting with something that has a few different names, and it depends on what the context is for some of those names. But for the context that we are referring to here, one of the names for it is getting a free high by controlled self-strangulation to try to force your mind to a higher state by depriving it of oxygen, your brain, by depriving your brain of oxygen. And if you're not careful, or if an accident happens, obviously, asphyxiation and death will result. That's what happened to him. It explains all of the previously unanswerable questions surrounding his mysterious death. Because if it was autoerotic asphyxiation, why was he found fully dressed? So we have to be careful about going too far, not just in terms of strangling yourself, but I just mean in the way, because those who knew him could see that in the last year of his life, which ended in the last days of the year, so for that whole year, he was really obsessed with trying to be Mr. Enlightenment. And unfortunately for him, not really living up to what he was pretending to be. And I've said before in many videos about how that staggering contradiction must have really tormented him. Making videos pretending to be so enlightened and claiming to be vibrating at a frequency higher than the rest of us. And then doing some pretty bad things even to his own children. Doesn't really work. And that contradiction must have just been eating him alive. And it's interesting because a couple of months before his death, we were having a very open conversation one day in which he told me that he could see now that he had, these are his words, an anger problem. And I told him with such love that I was so proud of him for seeing that and hopefully being able to overcome it. And so it seemed preposterous that a couple months later he would take his own life. And now I see that that's not exactly what happened, at least not intentionally. But if we could go back in time to prior to that last year, when he became so obsessed with trying to be enlightened and trying to pretend to be enlightened and all the rest of that nonsense. Then he would still be with us. And he would be with me right now, working on the new Zulu Matrix album. He's with me in spirit. And thankfully, we worked on music together for so long that I have the ability to channel him musically. So he's still participating in a way in the creation of new Zulu Matrix music, which is going very well, by the way. I'm taking a break from it right now to make this video, because I really wanted to share this, not just for all of those who knew and loved him, to help to relieve them of this burden, of this relentless question that even after 12 years is still haunting so many of his friends and family. How could he do that? Well, this is how. He didn't mean to do it. He was just lost in this overwhelming obsession with trying to be enlightened. And one of the key aspects of Zen that has been lost today is, if someone is pursuing it, pursuing enlightenment, trying to chase after a Zen master to be taught Zen, they will be rejected. And that's not for silly reasons. It's for the most important reason. If you're pursuing it, if you're chasing after it, it's not for you, or it's not yet your time. You can't find enlightenment, no matter how hard you try. The harder you try, the further it will move from you. And he tried so hard that it cost him his life. But in a way, it had already cost him his life before he stopped breathing. Because he had so alienated himself from everyone else. And not in some silly way like me, the crazy Zen guy who lives alone in the forest. And I happen to love it. I don't even know how long I've been alone now. Well, I guess that was roughly about that time when he killed himself. I was already really on my own at that point, but let's just say, there you go. For about 12 years or so now, I've been alone, baby. Just me and the beautiful trees and my music and the beauty of Zen. I'm not enlightened. Anyone who claims to be enlightened, just ignore them. Do yourself a favor. We all have experiences from time to time where we experience the transcendent, in so many forms. I've heard the voice of God. We all have, if we just get out of the way. Unplug. Get the plugs out of your ears. Take those buds out. Open yourself to what's all around, to what you are, because we are one. Life is so beautiful. Oh my goodness. It's such a blessing. And it's interesting to note that the revelation that I received about Mo's accidental death, formerly known as his suicide, that revelation came to me on the very same day last week when Brent died. Is that a coincidence?